Welcome to DailyDose.Business. We're here to really cut through the noise and give you those crucial business insights you need.
That's the goal.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into a really interesting article, co-authored actually, called The Future of Hiring Starts with Smarter Interviews.
Yeah, it caught my eye too.
So for you listening, especially if you're always looking to get ahead, find, more effective ways of doing things in business, this is right up your alley. We're looking at how we fundamentally bring talent into our companies.
And the article, one of the things it does right away is challenge something we all kind of take for granted. The traditional interview.
Right.
The co-authors, and one of them is Bill Weaver from Cardone Enterprises, someone really known for, building people, spotting potential. They argue these methods, well, they often fail us right from the start.
How so?
Well, they point to our own biases. Things like the halo effect, where one good thing about a candidate kind of colors everything else we see.
Or the opposite, maybe.
Or the opposite, exactly. And also the similar to bias. We naturally tend to like people who remind us of ourselves.
It's a bit scary, isn't it, that these automatic reactions could mean we miss out on the best people.
It is. And the article really hits home on the cost of that missing great talent, sure, but also hindering diversity, which we know is vital for innovation.
Okay, so it's highlighting a big problem, but the article isn't saying throw out interviews entirely, is it?
No, not at all. That's the interesting part. It's proposing an integration, bringing artificial intelligence, AI, into the mix.
Ah, okay, AI in hiring.
Exactly. But critically, the authors frame it as a complement to human judgment, not a replacement. That's a point Bill Weaver really emphasizes in their writing. These biases, the halo effect, liking people like us, they act like unintentional filters.
Blocking good candidates.
Precisely. So AI offers something different. Consistency, objectivity. It uses data, applying the same criteria across the board. Think of it like a standardized ruler against the job's actual needs.
Okay, so it standardizes things, reduces bias. What are the actual, tangible benefits the article talks about if you implement this?
Well, they lay out some pretty compelling advantages. First off, better accuracy in picking the right people, which, logically leads to better performance on the job.
Makes sense.
And potentially better retention, too. If you hire right the first time, people are more likely to stick around, feel like it's a good fit.
That's a big one.
Definitely. And maybe one of the most powerful points is how AI can help spot high-potential individuals from, let's say, non-traditional backgrounds, people who might otherwise get overlooked by our subjective filters.
So opening up the talent pool. Now, when we say AIs and analyzing interviews, what technology is actually doing that? The article mentions NLP.
Right, NLP, natural language processing.
Okay, break that down for us non-tech folks. What does that mean here?
Okay, think of NLP as the tech that lets computers kind of understand human language. Not just read words, but grasp the meaning, the context, the sentiment.
So it's reading between the lines almost.
In a way, yeah. The article details, I think it was 6 key ways NLP helps in AI interviews. First, sentiment analysis.
Okay.
So the AI can potentially gauge things like confidence, maybe enthusiasm, or even hesitation in a candidate's response beyond just the words they use.
Interesting.
Then there's context recognition, making sure the answer actually, fits the question and relates to the job itself. Is it relevant?
Got it.
Keyword extraction is another, like a smart search, pulling out the key skills or qualifications mentioned.
So faster screening for essentials. What else?
Language proficiency assessment. Obvious importance there for many roles. And crucially, bias reduction. Because NLP analyzes language patterns more neutrally, it can help minimize biases tied to things like accents or cultural speech patterns.
It is potentially huge.
It really is. And finally, soft skills evaluation. By looking at how someone answers, the structure, the examples, AI can offer insights into things like critical thinking, problem-solving, teamwork approach. And as the authors, including Weaver, put it, all these things together collectively enhance accuracy, efficiency, and fairness. That's the goal.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But if the AI is doing all this analysis, the questions you ask must be really important, right?
Yeah.
You need to give the AI something good to analyze.
Absolutely. The article spends a good chunk of time on that, designing effective questions for AI analysis.
Yeah.
It's not just asking the same old things.
So what's the strategy?
Well, it starts with being super clear on the core competencies needed for the job. What skills, what behaviors are truly essential. Then you map those to specific actions someone might describe.
Okay.
And the key is asking open-ended questions. Questions that force candidates to tell a story, provide details, not just yes, no.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of like, did you lead a team, which is a yes, no.
Right.
You'd have something like, describe a time you led a team through a really challenging project.
Mhm.
What was your specific role, and how did you keep everyone motivated? See the difference?
Yeah, much richer. You get a narrative.
Exactly. And the article specifically mentions using the STAR method here.
Ah, STAR. Situation, task, action, result.
That's the one. Frame questions using that structure. Tell me about a situation where X happened. What was your task? What actions did you take? And what was the ultimate result? This gives the AI really structured data to analyze.
And you design these STAR questions to tap into those NLP capabilities we talked about, sentiment, context, etc.
Precisely. You want questions that allow the AI to assess all those layers. And importantly, the author stress testing these questions. Try them out, refine them, then use AI platforms for the analysis, but keep that feedback loop going to improve the questions over time.
It sounds like a very deliberate process.
It has to be, to get real value.
Okay, so let's say an organization listening is thinking, this sounds promising, but maybe a bit daunting. What are some practical first steps the article suggests for getting started?
Yeah, the article provides a pretty clear roadmap for dipping your toes in. First step, define clear objectives. What problem are you actually trying to solve with AI? Faster hiring, better quality hires, reducing bias. Get specific.
Know your why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then select the right tools. Maybe don't jump into full AI interviews straight away. Start with tools for, say, resume screening or initial video assessments. User-friendly stuff.
Start small.
Right. And pilot the system. Test it in one department or for one type of role. See how it works in your context. Get feedback.
Learn before scaling.
For sure. And crucially, train your team.
Mm.
People need to understand how to use the tools, what the AI insights mean, and how it works with their own judgment. It's about collaboration.
Not just handing it over to the machine.
Never. Then you need to monitor and evaluate. Track those objectives you said. Is time to hire improving? What's the candidate feedback like? Look at the metrics.
Data-driven decisions about the AI itself.
Yes. And then, if it's working, you can scale gradually. Maybe bring AI into later interview stages. And always, always maintain ethical standards. Transparency, fairness, mitigating bias that has to be central.
That ethical piece seems critical. We should probably circle back to that. But first, you mentioned earlier that AI can spot things humans might miss in those STAR responses. Can you give some examples from the article?
Yeah, this is where the real analytical power comes in. The co-authors point out AI is good at catching inconsistencies. Like if the action described doesn't really match the task, or if the result sounds way too good to be true compared to the action taken.
Exaggerations, maybe?
Could be, or just a muddled story. AI can also flag lack of specificity, lots of vague language, buzzwords, but no real concrete examples or measurable outcomes.
All fluff, no substance.
Kind of, yeah. It can detect that overuse of buzzwords, too. And remember sentiment analysis. It can pick up on emotional tone. Is the candidate hesitant when describing a success? Overconfident about a minor task?
Subtle cues.
Subtle cues humans might miss, especially if they're focused on just the words. And finally, just rigorously checking alignment with job requirements.
Right.
Is this impressive story actually relevant to the skills needed for this job?
That's incredibly useful. It's like having a super focused analyst reviewing every answer.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, looking ahead, the article touches on future possibilities, right? Where could this AI in hiring tech go next?
It does paint a pretty exciting picture. Things like even more advanced predictive analytics, getting better at forecasting not just performance, but maybe long-term retention too.
Predicting who will stay and succeed.
Potentially. Also real-time feedback during the interview. AI coaching candidates as they go.
Wow, that would change things.
Definitely. Enhanced sentiment analysis, getting even more nuanced about personality. Multimodal analysis, so not just text, but analyzing voice tone. Maybe even video cues for a fuller picture.
Taking in more data points.
Right. And they even mentioned things like virtual reality assessments. Imagine demonstrating skills in a simulated work environment, or AI evaluating soft skills in virtual team exercises.
Sounds very sci-fi, but maybe not that far off.
Maybe not. The pace of change is pretty rapid.
So, with all these capabilities, current and future, how do organizations actually measure if this is working better than traditional methods? What metrics does the article suggest tracking?
Good question. The co-authors list several key ones. Time to hire is a big one. Automation should speed things up.
Efficiency.
Right. Quality of hire. Are the people hired through this process performing better, staying longer? That's crucial. Candidate experience. Is the process smoother, fairer, more transparent for them?
Important for employer branding.
Absolutely. Bias reduction, are you seeing more diversity in hires? Are the evaluations demonstrably fair? Efficiency and cost savings, naturally? And the quality of the data-driven insights themselves, are you learning more about what makes a successful hire? And ultimately, improvements in diversity and inclusion metrics overall. Okay, so a whole suite of metrics to watch. Now, one thing AI might struggle with is cultural fit. That feels very human. Does the article address that challenge?
It does. That's acknowledged as a tricky area for AI alone. AI is great at assessing skills, competencies based on data, but that nuanced understanding of values, team dynamics, work style, that often requires human insight.
So how do you balance that?
The article suggests a blended approach. Keep human-led cultural interviews specifically focused on those values conversations. Maybe use team-based assessments where potential colleagues get involved.
Get the team's perspective.
Exactly. You could use cultural fit surveys alongside the AI assessment, collect data, but have humans interpret it in context, and really emphasize feedback loops between recruiters and hiring teams about those fit aspects. Plus, good onboarding and mentorship focused on cultural integration after the hire.
So AI does the heavy lifting on skills, humans focus more on the cultural connection.
That seems to be the idea. It's about playing to the strengths of both. Which brings us back to a point you made earlier, something the article really stresses at the end, this augmentation mindset. Can you unpack that a bit more?
Yeah, this is really the core takeaway from the co-authors. It's pushing back against the idea that AI is here to completely replace recruiters. That's a misconception.
So augmentation, not replacement.
Precisely. The mindset is seeing AI as a tool that enhances human abilities. It automates repetitive tasks, provides objective data, flags things we might miss, but it doesn't have empathy, deep contextual understanding, or that final gut check.
The human touch.
The human touch, the strategic thinking. Recruiters are still essential for the deeper conversations, for judging that complex fit factor, and ultimately for making the final hiring decision. It's a partnership.
A powerful partnership, it sounds like.
That's how the article frames it. The future isn't just AI, it's human intelligence augmented by artificial intelligence.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this deep dive into the future of hiring starts with smarter interviews. The big picture is AI can bring huge benefits efficiency, less bias, deeper insights, especially if you design your questions well and use it ethically.
Right, but the absolute key, as Bill Weaver and the co-author stress, is that augmentation mindset. It's a tool to make humans better at hiring, not obsolete.
Which really leaves you, the listener, with a provocative thought, doesn't it?
It does. How will embracing this blend of AI analysis and human insight truly reshape the teams you build? How will it impact your organization's future?
Something definitely worth considering. Think about those practical steps, the potential benefits, and how this partnership could evolve in your own context. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on DailyDose.Business.